It's official. The ACC is moving from 20 to 18 league games this season in an effort to get more teams in the NCAA tournament. But will it?
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up? It's Thursday, May 8th, 2025. Welcome into the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Schade, and you're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you so much for making this your first listener watch to get your Thursday started the right way. Want to give a special shout out to all the everydayers who are joining us, all the great members of the Locked On Discord, and our great Locked On Tar Heels insiders as well. It's great to be together. This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Joining me on the show today is our good buddy, Coach Bill Robinson, officially in the post-academic part of the year. Milligan is finished. They've been finished for a week now. I'm very jealous because I'm just finishing up my finals at my school this week, but I am done grading. Take that, everyone who is not. Coach Robinson, for those of you who are unfamiliar, if you're new to the show, is the head coach at Milligan University of their men's basketball team in Johnson City, Tennessee. He is a 2-decade veteran of Carolina Basketball School, where he's been working at Carolina Basketball Camp for a long time. Longer than most of the students we teach, by the way, have been alive. And if you have not seen this book, man, you need to get in on it. It's called Carolina Basketball School, aptly named as Coach Rob's got his copy too. Love that. Carolina Basketball School, history, stories, and drills. Man, this thing is chock-a-block full of all sorts of history and stories and legitimately like diagrams of plays. Great stuff. And I would recommend it to anyone who is a Tar Heels fan or just enjoys learning more about the game. It's great stuff with great stories from all sorts of people. Check it out. You can get it on Amazon. If you'd like a signed copy, you can grab one of those from Coach himself. Reach out and we'll make it happen. So, Coach, it's good to be together. It's wild that we are at the end of another school year. But here's where we're going today. It was officially announced on Wednesday that the ACC is indeed moving from 20 conference games back down to 18 this upcoming season. I can't believe how quick that's happening, but it's going to. So what we're going to do is we're going to unpack that from what does that mean from an ACC scheduling standpoint. We're going to talk about what it means from a non-con scheduling standpoint, and then some other conversations as well. But pretty easy organic flow today, and we're just going to have a lot of conversation back and forth about those things. Coach, let me quickly provide the context, and then we'll get into the conversation. So on Wednesday, CBS's Matt Norlander was the first to report this, that this was going to happen. Obviously, we talked about it on the show a couple weeks ago, but now it is official. And as I said, it will be implemented immediately this season. So the 20-game conference slate started back in the 2019-2020 season with the advent of the ACC network. It has happened every year since then, other than the COVID-shortened 2020-21 season. And Coach, there are a lot of things that this will do, but according to Commissioner Jim Phillips, the big hope is that this will be a big help in the ACC getting more teams into the NCAA tournament. Now, since we're going to wait to talk about the non-conference side of that, I want to hold off on that part of the discussion. So if you can have an answer to Commissioner Phillips' desire there without really getting into too much of the non-con side of it, just curious your initial thoughts on that.
And my initial thoughts about it is we who love Carolina basketball and we who love the ACC have always thought that the ACC is it. It's basketball. It's the conference in the country. It's about ACC basketball, and nobody's as good as ACC basketball. I think we've seen in the last 5 years that that's not true. And I think they finally have had enough. I think they're fed up, and they want to get back into where ACC basketball is relevant again. And we've obviously the league has had teams get to Elite Eights, Final Fours in the last few years, but they haven't won it. And it's been embarrassing to see how many teams have not made it to that level. Not just not made it to the tournament, but not even in the top 100 programs in the country. And that's not acceptable for ACC. I think the quick fix is for the bottom of the conference to get better. I think that's what they were hoping. It didn't happen. You got more coaches leaving. The programs are not getting good enough fast enough. And I don't think that that's going to happen any quicker. So the only really solution for this is to go out there and try to find more non-conference games. I get it. I do understand it. I don't necessarily like it, but I do understand it.
Yep. And I'm curious if it will actually ultimately be a fix. And the only way we'll find that out is as the schedule and the season unfolds. And I guess if it doesn't, you just keep tweaking until you find something. Coach, we're going to start by looking at the ACC side of that. Like, how will this actually play out? Because the way the scheduling has gone now with having 18 teams this past year is that you had 14 games that were against, it was a single game opponent. You played 7 at home, 7 on the road. And then there were 3 teams that you would play home and home for a total of 20 games. So, Coach, my assumption for how this was going to play out was just kind of the no-brainer of, okay, there are 17 other teams. So you play 16 teams one time, 8 at home, 8 on the road, and one team twice, both at home and on the road. The obvious for Carolina would be Duke. Coach, was that before we saw what the actual implementation of the schedule was going to be, was that kind of your gut reaction assumption for what the scheduling format would be?
Yeah, it was exactly that. And you can't take away the money part of it with Duke. You got to play those games, home and home. Those are too much of bigger rivalries, and they're the TV games that everybody wants to see across the country. I am a little bit shocked that somebody's going to not have a game against somebody in the conference. You're going to go a whole conference year and not play anybody. And that's my question for you. You're the AD of that school. Just say it's Stanford, and you're sitting there going, okay. And it's going to be, in my opinion, the Duke and Carolina games that they don't play somebody, it's going to be one of the new team. It's going to be the SMUs, the Cals, or the Stanfords. One of those teams is. So as an AD, you're sitting there saying, okay, we'll join this ACC because we know that Duke coming to Stanford or Duke going to Carolina going to Cal, that's going to be a big ticket draw for your gate. You're going to get a bunch of people. So you as an AD, how do you feel if you first of all have to travel to Carolina the first year and then the second year they don't even come back? How do you react to that as an AD?
Man, that's a great question, Coach, because it's like I would have wanted assurances like, hey, I'm excited to come into your league, but I want assurances that we're going to get games against Duke and Carolina, not just, in Cameron or in the Dean Dome. We want them out here, in Northern California. And so I would be very frustrated because think about Carolina or Duke coming to my school. That is the single biggest draw all season long. And that's going to be my biggest gate. That's going to be my biggest concessions draw, all of that kind of stuff. And so, Coach, the fact that they didn't go out there, at least Carolina, I can't remember Duke's schedule for sure, but obviously Carolina didn't go out there last year. And if this is now back-to-back years where they don't go out there, I would be very upset. I would imagine Carolina is going to have to go out there and the team they don't play is somebody else. But I'm with you. I like where you're leaning with your ask there, and I don't like it. What about you if you're the AD?
I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall in that meeting because, you got the Duke. I think it sounded like Duke really maybe headed this whole process, and they seem to be the ones who really wanted this. I can't imagine that the ADs sitting in there listening to this without somebody stepping up and saying, hey, wait, this isn't right. This might be great for you, maybe great for, NC State, but it's not good for us. I'd like to know what the vote was. They didn't come out, at least what I read, didn't have a vote. Was it close? I can't imagine it was unanimous. And how long did it take? I mean, I imagine that meeting could have taken days, literally days, to be able to get through for everybody to say, okay, this sounds like a good idea. And maybe they got assurances within that meeting. Hey, I'll vote yes as long as I know Duke's coming to my place.
Yeah.
And those are the type of steps I wish we had more insight to. But I just don't. Again, there's so many different ways to look at it. And we talk about this, how many different ways there are to watch a basketball game. Because you got people who watch the basketball only. You got coaches that watch the whole movement. You got the mom of the cheerleader, all she does is sit there and wait. Oh, there she is. There she is. And the officials that watch it, and all they do is watch how the officials move. And everybody's got a different point of view. So in something like this, everybody's got a different point of view. If I'm a coach, I want to play everybody equally. And I know that that's not possible with the way how many teams are in there. But I do at least want things to be as fair as possible. This doesn't seem fair at all. As a coach, And when you talk from a player's perspective, if I'm the starter, yeah, this is great. We're going to play great teams. We're going to play the best competition, which means I'm going to play 35 minutes at night, regardless, because we're not playing any weak teams. If I'm that bench guy, or if I'm the coach trying to develop my team and I don't know exactly what I have, I want a game or two against the Radfords and the Americans where we can play everybody and see what we do and see how people, so you're taking away two more of those games too, where you can't really develop your program early in the year because now you're playing against top tier teams and you have to play your best, and you're going to play your 8 guys or 9 guys in your rotation, and now it just changes everything. So it changes the whole philosophy of how you schedule and what you're really trying to accomplish before you get to the non-conference schedule or before you get to your conference schedule.
Yeah, absolutely. And so it'll be interesting to see when the schedules do eventually come out in the fall, who everyone is not playing. That's going to be an interesting ramification. And to that point, that's where we need to go next. So if the schedule that Isaac just said he thought it was going to be, and Coach Rob thought it was going to be, is not what it's going to be, what is it going to be? How will it be determined who Carolina plays and who the other teams play? What's that going to look like? And then we move from there into our conversation about the non-con slate. This means now you get 2 games back. How will Carolina and other schools utilize them? Is the ACC going to try to mandate that? We'll unpack all of that in just a second. Right after I tell you about game time, man, there's nothing like the atmosphere of an NBA playoff game. Every bucket, every defensive stop, every moment, it feels huge. It's electric in the arena, and with game time, you can be part of that without the stress of last-minute ticket hunting. Game time makes it fast and easy to get playoff tickets, even when the demand is sky high like it is right now for the NBA playoffs. But what's cool is that prices on the app actually go down as you get closer and closer to tip-off, and the last-minute deals can save you up to 60%. And that's why I love Game Time, because it's not just 60% on these games, but also concerts, comedy, theater, all sorts of great stuff. And the all-in pricing, I love that you can toggle that on so you never have to guess about fees at checkout or anything like that. What you see is what you pay. Talking of, the closer you get to tip-off, how about a game that's going on tonight? One NBA game, the Warriors at the Timberwolves, 7:30 p.m., Game 2 of this series. The Warriors are up 1-0 despite being Steph Curry-less. I found a ticket for this game for $109 all in, man. That's a great, great deal. Check it out. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Terms do apply. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets. Lowest prices guaranteed. All right, Coach, we just talked about what the ACC scheduling format is not going to be, so let's talk about what it now is going to be. Instead of 16 single-game opponents, 8 home, 8 away, and 1 home-and-home opponent, it's actually 1 more home-and-home opponent and 1 less, 2 total less single-game opponents, 1 fewer on the road, 1 fewer away, meaning that just like we did in the 20-game format, there are 14 single-game opponents. You play 7 home only, 7 away only. The difference is that there will still be 2 home and home opponents for total games. They've already named who the primary partners are going to be for North Carolina. As you would guess, that'll be the Duke Blue Devils. But then here's the interesting thing, Coach. The second one will not be set. So we now no longer get an assurance that Carolina and NC State will play home and home every year. Not only will we not get an insurance, it won't happen. It will sometimes, but that second spot is going to be a rotation. Coach, do you like this or do you not like it?
No, I think it takes away, again, natural rivalries. And we hate, State as much as some people hate them even more than Duke. And those are the rivalries we enjoy. And they're the guys that know each other real well. They played in the summer. They know each other from just hanging out at the restaurants in town and stuff. That's the thing that I think they miss is those type of relationship type issues. Early on with the Evdemov brothers at camp, when I started working, Jae'lyn used to come over and play pickup at night with those guys. And there's good relationships there and great rivalries. And I just don't want to see them go away. And to see that go to a 1-game series just doesn't seem right to me.
No, man. And you know what's funny? It's like if we're already gonna not play, because the way that's gonna lay out now is that there are 17 teams and you only play 16 of them. We alluded to that in the last segment, but kind of where I'm at if this is what we're going to do already, and there's already going to be one team we don't play, why not play 3 teams? And that way you can keep 3 home and home series, and you have 2 primary partners at that point, Duke, NC State, and then a rotating one. If we're already going to be cutting a team out, why not cut 3 teams out and keep NC State as a home and home?
It sounds perfectly sense to me, but you got to look back and why did we add the 3 teams we just added? Is there strength in numbers? Is there strength in teams that none of it made sense to me? And I think a lot of people felt that way. To have non-conference games where you're traveling cross country didn't make sense anyway. It doesn't feel like the ACC anymore. To have a Cal versus Stanford ACC game, the first time I saw that on the schedule, I said, this doesn't make sense at all. So I think they're stretching here. They're fishing for something. They're trying to find some success. They're trying to keep up. And it just doesn't seem like the right solution to me.
Yeah. Well, Coach, let's then move to the non-conference side of this, because with the reduction of 2 ACC games, it means the addition of 2 more non-con games, moving it from 11 to 13. The hope is that teams then would schedule higher profile non-con opponents to try to make their net ranking or their possibility of getting into the NCAA tournament better. But Coach, from anything I've read, I see nothing about the ACC trying to mandate who that's going to be or whatever it is. So here's what's weird to me. If we're trying to lose 2 games that might be quad 3, quad 4 games, a lot of schools are just going to schedule 2 other quad 3, quad 4 non-con opponents at home, right? Like that seems like that's going to happen a lot.
Yeah. And how is there any guarantee that you're going to be able to get those top tiers? And what if the NCAA does step in and say, okay, you're going to play this school, you're going to play that school? What if it's a matchup you don't necessarily want? What if it's St. John's and Ian Jackson, where you just like, hey, I don't mind if he leaves, he's going to a different conference. Now all of a sudden you're mandating them playing somebody you don't necessarily want to, just for personal reasons, don't necessarily want to play them. Or if they schedule you, say it's going to be, Gonzaga, and now you, in your budget, you thought you're going to be going across town and playing, or even a little bit down the road to play Wake Forest. Now all of a sudden you have a plane trip going all the way out to Gonzaga. It just changes everything. And I know budgets, I worry about them a lot more than they do at that level. They can't find enough reasons to spend money. But there's some things when it comes down to even academics or the travel, the wear and the tear you have on those guys being able to fly across country, that you got to have some kind of say into what those extra games are going to be.
Coach, as things stand right now, the non-conference schedule is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bye games, and therefore 4 games against high major opponents, those being Kansas, Michigan State, an SEC school, and then Ohio State in the CBS Sports Classic. So as you think about, like, if you're Coach Davis and the staff and you're trying to decide, okay, guys, how do we want to best utilize these 2 final games for us? Coach, in an ideal world, what kind of programs are you looking at for these 2 games? It could be 2 programs, 2 different programs. What are you thinking?
I mentioned St. John's because I know how much Coach Davis likes to play in Madison Square Garden because of the exposure and, the greatest, sports venue in the country. But to be able to head back more to the Midwest, I know you got a Big Ten game in there already, but to pick up another SEC game, I think would also help. You want to get that ACC back to where we want it to be. You're going to have to go out and play the best. And right now, the best conference is the SEC. Go pick up another game, maybe 2 with that conference.
It'll be interesting. Yeah, and I guess in that regard, you kind of got to wait to see who the ACC SEC opponent is going to be, which I would imagine they internally probably already know, even though it's not been released to the rest of us. And so they could start looking at that. But Coach, this is the last year of that home and home with Kansas. I would kind of love to see Carolina go ahead and get another one of those on the books. Do you kind of like that scheduling model, especially as Carolina is getting out away from being part of an MTE?
Yeah, I think I read something today about Florida and UConn having a long-term agreement. Those are cool. I think that's a really neat one because you got 2 programs, obviously more recent, that have been fantastic programs, great young coaches. I'd love to see an agreement like that, similar to that. I don't know who that would be. Maybe something like a Creighton, where they say, okay, we're going to play, or Marquette, something in the Midwest there. Just something and set up it doesn't have to be 10 years. It could be a 4-year, alternating, home sites, something like that. But I think that would be a little bit more intriguing. Let's see somebody we haven't seen before. That's still somebody who's in that top 20, top 10, top 15, whatever, and really be able to restore a relationship with that. Maybe in Iowa, somebody like that. Maybe BYU, with the way BYU is right now. Maybe that's something. Not that I would want to go to BYU. I promise you, I would not want to take my team to BYU.
No.
It's just a different. They're there. They play so well there. But I mean, that's what they're looking for, right? You want to challenge yourself against the very toughest places to play. To me, that's one of the top 10 toughest places to play right now.
Yeah, man, I like that idea a lot. Well, Coach, I'd also like to have a conversation about, do you want two of those type of opponents, or would you like one high major and one mid major? I'd also like to look at where in the schedule do we think these games might fit? So those are conversations we're going to have coming up in just a second. Right after I tell you about the Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K, did you know that your Fire TV is also an Xbox? You can turn any TV in your house into a gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices. No consoles required. You just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign into Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. You can dive into hundreds of premium titles from EA Sports College Football 25 to Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and so many more. You can do that as easily as you stream all your favorite shows. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Amazon Fire TV. You can go and check it out right now. With Wi-Fi 6 and 6E and auto low latency mode advanced technology, Fire TV Stick 4K delivers smoother, more responsive gameplay with lightning fast speeds that you need to stay competitive. But maybe you don't really have much interest in gaming. Great news, that's no problem. Because the Amazon Fire TV Stick is the perfect go-to for all of your family's entertainment. In fact, that's exactly what we do here at the Schade household. I have a Fire TV Stick on every one of my TVs, and it's our go-to for any time that we're watching anything on any screen in our house. The platform, I love it. It's so easy to navigate, and you should check it out as well. Head over to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller required. It's available on select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K 2nd Gen, Fire TV Stick 4K Max 1st and 2nd Gen, and Fire TV Cube 3rd Gen. All right, Coach, we've started looking at these two extra non-con games that Carolina has at their disposal now. And what I want to ask you about is the level of opponent that you would maybe schedule if you were Hubert Davis. We talked about some different kind of schools, but what I want to ask is, you've got 7 bye games right now, 4 games against high majors. Would you look to schedule all high major opponents? Would you try to do one high major, one mid or low major? Just given the scope of what Carolina is looking at, the personnel, the roster, I know it changes year to year, but what would you do for this year with these final 2 games?
Yeah, with so many new guys into the program this year, I would do 1-1, and I would try to play maybe that mid-major early and play that high major later, Christmas area, after finals, somewhere in that area. I think Hubert will do both high major as the top games that he could possibly get. That's just his mentality. That's who he is. He wants to be challenged. That's the way I would anticipate him doing it, not how I would do it.
You would go high major, high major?
I would go high major, or mid major. I would do one of each. I think Hubert would go 2 high majors.
I'm tracking. I misunderstood what you were saying. Yeah. Because the other thing is, as we start looking at the schedule, and those of you watching on YouTube, you can see it. They're what we know of the non-con schedule already. Carolina's first game is Monday, November 3rd against Central Arkansas, and then they've got over a week off until they play Radford the next Tuesday. Coach, we've seen a lot more like Friday games in non-con. Would you think about maybe inserting one there at the end of that first week, which is exactly when they played Kansas last year?
Yeah, and I think that's the one I would put in a mid-major, because I want to play a couple games with the new squad and try to figure things out and get to play everybody. And I think that would be a great place to put that mid-major game. And then similar to what we do with our Division I games, we play a couple Division I games that we try to play maybe something early and then something at Christmas right after finals. So guys kind of relax, semester's over, and and then do a little bit of traveling. And that would be a great time to go to a Gonzaga, go to a St. Mary's, go to something like that. And play UCLA, or you have some time where you can kind of just get away and spend time together as a team and really try to bond more.
That's cool. It's funny, I was thinking about it as you were talking. Carolina's got Radford on the schedule. If I remember correctly, Milligan's played Radford before, correct?
Yeah, it's been a little while, but Radford, in my mind, every time I think of Radford, I think of Coach Steve Robinson, because that's where he went to school too. So not far from us here. And obviously, we want to give a big shout out to Coach Robinson. He's retired after 4 years. So
That's a good
great,
word.
great run for him.
I love all the Coach Robs in my life, man. It's good stuff. But yeah, Coach, if we could get a mid-major opponent in that slot, that would be 3 mid-major games before Kansas comes to the Dean Dome, and that would be a great schedule there. I'm looking at some other stuff. You got a week between the Navy game and the Fort Myers tip-off. Maybe you could slot something in there. You talked around Christmas. Coach, I also wouldn't – another slot I wouldn't mind seeing something is Duke last year, and they're doing it again this year, played a non-con game in like February in the midst of the ACC play. Kind of like how right now there's always one ACC game in the midst of non-con play. It's basically like you just took those and flip-flopped them. What is your thought on putting one of these non-con games there somewhere if the ACC schedule allowed for it anyway?
Hate it. Absolutely hate it.
Why is that?
It's you get a non-conference game in the middle of conference, it always seems to be a letdown. That's my guys. That's 30 years of doing that. But every time you get, because the guys just don't see it as being an important game. It just doesn't matter. Now, we know that with power rankings, Ken Palm, all that other stuff, it means just as much, sometimes more, if you play that tier 1 team. But to me, I hate trying to play non-conference in the middle of conference. It just seems like it gets out of rhythm. It seems like it just doesn't seem as important. It's hard to get guys to stay focused for a non-conference game at that time.
Yeah, that's fair. That's legit. Of course, I guess part of the ACC right now, and going back to what you first said in this conversation on the show today, Coach, is the ACC might need some of those games depending on if things come up or not. Man, really interesting conversation surrounding all this. Coach, we wait to see if there is any guidance from the ACC, or maybe if there's another conference similar to the ACC SEC challenge, anything like that, or if it's just, all right, ACC schools, schedule who you want for those other 2 games. Right now, it seems like it's going to be the wild, wild west on it, but obviously we will wait and see. All right, Coach, last part of the conversation we want to have today is actually taking a little bit of a turn away from our conference game reduction conversation and looking at your player, Hanjay Tamba, who had played at Milligan last year, that is now committed to go play at St. John's this upcoming season. But there was some conversation around him having conversations with North Carolina. Coach, it appears that there's been some underselling of those conversations. It appears there's been some overselling of those conversations. And you said, Isaac, I would love to set the record straight today on those conversations. So, Coach, could you please, for the love of everything holy, put the truth out there into the world?
Yeah, Tom was a great kid, and he was a great player for us. Somebody put that he was one of the top, centers in the portal. I think we all know that that's not true. Tamba knows that's not true. But when he started talking to St. John's, I looked at my wife and I said, if he signs at St. John's and I don't say something to my friends at Carolina, they're going to hate me. They're going to be mad at me. And I'm going to be mad at me. So I've got to at least say something. So I contacted Brad Frederick right away. He's my closest contact in the staff, and just said, hey, I just want you to know, Tamba, and we had talked about Tamba last summer when he signs. So, Brad knew all about him. But when that happens, he goes to St. John's. I call Brad. Brad's like, well, if he's going to St. John's, I at least need to talk to HD. So he got in touch with Hubert, and then I got a call from Buzz Peterson about it, and they wanted to know more about him. And by the time we actually got Hubert and Tamba on the phone together, he had already been to Madison Square Garden. He had already stayed at the Ritz-Carlton, and he had already pretty much decided that he was going to St. John's. And Hubert had a 30-minute conversation with Tamba. And then Hubert called me, and Hubert's actually the one who told me Tamba was going to St. John's. Tamba didn't tell me until about 2 hours later, and it gave me a good opportunity to talk to Hubert about it too. And they had a wonderful conversation. But did Carolina, pursue him? Not really. Did they have a conversation? Yeah, but it wasn't like they were, super disappointed that they didn't get him. They never got him on campus. So in reality, I don't know if he can play at that level. I'm an NAIA coach. I only see my guys at my level. So I don't think he would have, in my opinion, I don't think he would have played at Carolina. But it was cool to be able to go through that process. So yes, they did talk to him. No, it wasn't like they lost a recruiting battle. But it was a great thing for Tamba to be able to have a conversation, with Hubert. And Hubert he really enjoyed getting to know him, just 30-minute conversation. So I think all in all, it was a win for all of us.
And what I like about this situation too, Coach, is I think it gives us better understanding of the way people will utilize portal moments to try and get clicks and views and things like that. Because I don't even remember who it was, and even if I did, I don't think I'd want to call that person out. But there was somebody that basically reported like, "Hey, Hanji Tamba commits to St. John's. North Carolina was wildly interested," or something. It was the same tweet where it talked about him as being one of the top bigs in the portal. And it was like, I knew because of your and my conversations, like that the top big, as you said, or one of the top bigs is not necessarily a true statement. And that I knew the level of conversation behind the scenes. I couldn't talk about it at that point, but I wanted with everything in me to quote tweet that and be like, lies, lies, more lie, right? Like, just because it just wasn't true. And it's like, whatever is the truth is what needs to be said, but let's not try to overblow it. But then, of course, a bunch of Carolina people were responding that tweet saying, "Who is this Tamba guy? I've never heard of him." And understandably so. He's an NAIA center, and so they wouldn't have heard of him. But all the fans then, their reaction is naturally, well, of course Carolina didn't talk to Tamba. That's not. And I'm like, well, that's not true either. They did talk, right? And so it's very Goldilocks-y situation where the truth was somewhere in the middle, Coach, and that's what was just right. So thank you for setting the record straight on that. Any other words on that, Coach?
Yeah, December 20th, Carolina plays Ohio State in Atlanta, and guess who's also going to be there? St. John's. So I'm hoping to be able to get down there, get a chance to see Tamba in the red and black. It's going to look weird, but how cool would it be to see get to see him at least be on the floor, before or after Carolina plays. So I'm super excited. I got that highlighted on my calendar, and
Yes.
and really looking forward to that.
Yeah, I think we will all be Red Storm fans that day, not just because of Tamba, but also because they're playing Big Blue Nation. So there we go on that. Folks, the super fun show today to get to talk about this new scheduling stuff, to talk a bit more about Tamba and that whole situation. And also to remind you, go check out Carolina Basketball School. Get your copy again on Amazon, or reach out to Coach directly. He'd love to sign a copy and get it to you, man. This book is great, and it would make great. We're heading into summer. I'm going to the beach in like 4 weeks. Go get your copy and sit on the beach and read it with a drink in your hand. It'll be a lot of fun. If you've not subscribed to the show on YouTube and audio, go ahead and do that right now so you don't miss a second. If you've not joined the Locked On Tar Heels Discord, we'd love to have you there. That link is in the show notes. Free to join. And if you want to go deeper with the show and help support what we're doing, you can join the Locked On Tar Heels Insiders. That link is also in the show notes. Speaking of which, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel. For Coach Rob, I'm Isaac Schade. We'll talk to you again tomorrow to wrap the week. But until then, peace.